start. Before I start, we don't have a PA system tonight because there's a meeting next door and they can't isolate it out of that building. So when you do come up to call or talk, please take your mask off. So, anyway, I'd like to welcome you to November 17th, 2021 City Council meeting. Roll call of officers. To my left, E. Cragen, Mary Dabbs. To my right, Richie Scott, Gabriel Stapp, Ron Scholz. To my left, Community Service Director Roger Krieger, City Clerk Treasurer Debbie Craig. So I'd like to have you stand for tonight's invocation is given by Pastor Jeremy Watch from Divine Leader. You're okay, or should I? You're fine? Okay.
Father, thank you for this group of people, that these leaders that you have placed in positions of influence and authority, and you've given them the charge to steward this community. And so we pray that you would give them wisdom tonight, that they would work together in unity, and that they would be effective in bringing about good results, that this community would be blessed because of the activity that happens through these men and women tonight. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 4, approval of the agenda. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. Item 5, approval of November 3rd, 2021 regular council meeting minutes. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 6, public hearing. We'll close the regular council meeting and go to public hearing. Item 8, ad valorem taxes for 2022, ordinance 2021-002. And item B is 2021 revenue sources. And if we have any comments from the public?
Don't raise our taxes.
Talk to them.
Yes, sir.
So we'll close the public hearing, go back to the city council meeting. Item 7, under new business. Item A, engineering services, independent fee estimate, pavement rehabilitation, project airport IFE Services Incorporated. Darrell, would you like to give us an update?
So this is a cost comparison. It's for our next year's FAA grant process. What it is we hire an independent engineer to review the project scope and the project services, provide their pricing, and we compare it to our engineering services price-wise to determine if there's any discrepancies or any issues in the pricing. In past years, we have found some discrepancies that we've had to resolve. So it's a good method of determining if there are any discrepancies or issues that need to be resolved during the engineer's pricing of a project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
I might add that it is also reimbursed by the FAA when the grant's approved and in process.
Motion carried. Item B, aviation revitalization loan program application. Washington State DOT Aviation Division.
So this is a loan for various airports in the state of Washington. The loan program is a 20-year, 2% interest rate. We filled out the loan application for sewer mains on airport so that we can connect the existing and also to provide some new sewer stubs for some new lots. We are working in tandem. We're doing working on an EDA grant just to see which, we want to have the loan secured if we can, and if we get the grant, that's great. But this will help to put the sewer mains on airport. Tim, we had to submit it. We had November 1st deadline, and we had the documents got the documents kind of late. So we went ahead and submitted it. I did speak with Dave Shinar, who is the board president, and he said they only received 5 applications. So he felt like our application was being viewed in a positive light. So we could, this is one possible way to get the sewer mains on airport.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item C, Colville Crawford Roundabout in North Colville reconstruction. Change order number 6, Roger.
So this is on our Colville and Crawford project, and on the desk in front of you tonight, you had a revised first page of it. The change order amount isn't revised; it's still for $10,001.66. It's just on the estimated contract amount to the far right of the front page there. That formula in that box wasn't right yet, so it upped it to the correct numbers. The change order is for the project work really on the site, which was the driveway approach at 60 North Colville. When we got the project to where it was going to be done, it was found that the driveway work that we had to do to make the driveways match up to the existing grade that was there was quite a bit more than originally planned. And so it was a change order both for the tear out of the the concrete and the replacement back of the concrete and the block wall to make it all work because grades, the way they match through that area. So the total, there is a deduct change order in here also. It deals with light poles at the intersection. If you drive through there, you'll notice we have 2 of the 4 poles installed. Once they were here in a vista in their overhead raising of the lights and so forth, there's minimum clearances they got to have. The 40-foot poles are the standard that WashDOT wanted. So when you design to that works out fine. And then when they were there to be installed, then we ran into an electric distribution conflict with the Vista, and they win basically. And so the poles had to be shortened 10 feet. And so there's a cost obviously to get new poles and reimbursement and so forth. We are going to end up purchasing the 2, we already have them in the yard, I think. Not yet. We're going to end up purchasing the 2 40-foot poles from the contractor, but that'll be a separate thing outside this project contract, and we'll use somewhere down the line, I'm sure. But so anyway, the net effect of both those 2 changes in the project is $10,001.66 that we need your approval on.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Comments or questions by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item D, lease renewal agreement, Orchard Bluff LLC. Daryl, you want to just hit on that real quick?
That's not me.
That's ours. So this is a lease that we have had with these folks for quite some time. And Section A is the current one that we're under started June 15, 2011, but it has been in place since the 90s as well. And anyway, we own property north of Montgomery Road. I probably should include a map in here just to show you where it's at, but north of Montgomery Road on Dalton, where the tree farm is out there. If you've seen, and the trees farm hasn't been ran as far as taking trees down and selling for quite some time. But we own a 10-acre parcel out there as well that the city council purchased in 1983, 1984, it was at the time dealing with water and water rights and all the fun stuff that was going on out there. With about the same time we bought the Olson property, where the North Dalton wells sit. So anyway, they bought this 10-acre parcel for the potential to install. There was a well on it. It's not a domestic well, but there's an irrigation well on there. But we bought the property in order to secure a spot where another point of withdrawal could be installed someday in the future. And at the time, they were trying to acquire their water rights there as well. That part of it never came through, but we still ended up with the 10 acres. We actually end up with a 1/16 of a water right, which doesn't give much. But more importantly, it's a site where we could stick a well and we have a 16-inch main that's out to the North Dalton well for transport of the water into town. So the council did all the parts and pieces to get it ready. But anyway, the folks that owned Orchard Bluff before that entered into a lease agreement with the city to raise trees there. And these folks have elected to extend their lease for another 10 years, basically. And so it's a project, it's a way to deal with the 10-acre parcel, keep it in shape that it is. It's still ours. I wouldn't suggest ever to get rid of it simply because the water is there relatively close to the surface. And so it's just a way to generate a little bit of revenue. It's not a lot each year, but it's something on that property out there. And so we'd recommend your extension of it.
Okay, motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item E, 2022 Economic Development Service Contract. Economic Development Northwest. Joe, you want to just get a little bit on that?
Okay. Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Joe Twitterelli. I've been your economic development consultant for the last, can't remember how long, lifetime, seems like. This is a renewal of a contract that we've had for a number of years. It encompasses about 20 hours a month where I make contact with industries and businesses and whatnot to try and create economic development in the region. So I'm asking to renew this for at least another year, and especially since we now have fully serviced about 250 acres of a fully serviced industrial ground. Deer Park, I took a look at, Deer Park has probably more commercial empty property of any other small city in Eastern Washington, practically. So, and we've been working on that. One of my target goals is, of course, a motel, grocery store, services, some other retail, as well as the manufacturing to fill the industrial area. That, I'll entertain questions.
I'll make a motion to approve your contract.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? Questions?
Thank you for your service.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Would like to record the statement that I would vote no on that.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Item 8, old business. Letter A, discussion and possible action concerning the city COVID-19 emergency resolution number 2020-006. We will start with comments by the council, and then we will go to the citizens. Mary, would you start us off?
I think we ought to just leave it where you're in charge of it.
Okay. Dee?
I fully agree with her. I think you've earned our trust, and you haven't even thought about using it illegally. If we had a major emergency, you have sale? Excuse me, I have to call the council members instead of reacting immediately. Another thing is COVID has not gone away. Okay?
Richie?
So COVID has not gone away. It is probably not going to go away. It's endemic now, which means it's going to be around probably until the end of time. That it's not really emergent anymore. And a lot of the societal and economic disturbance that the country and world is experiencing now is in a lot of ways a chain reaction from COVID, but not a direct result of that. If there is an emergency, the mayor can make another emergency declaration like he did previously, and then we can, or the council, at whatever time that might be, can come together and ratify that proclamation with a resolution. There is no reason to keep this. There really is just no reason to keep this. We should be having the foresight in what we do as a sanity council so that if something comes up, that we can either deal with it with an emergency proclamation or we have an ordinance in place. There are emergency response services through the federal, the state, and local jurisdictions to deal with emergencies. If there's just really no reason to have this in place anymore. Every other jurisdiction, many of the jurisdictions, even Spokane, has gotten rid of their emergency proclamations and resolutions. It's time.
Caleb?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would draw everybody's attention to the resolution where we put this in effect. In section 1, you can read the verbiage there. The particular word that I would draw your attention to would be the word immediate. We were going to keep this state of emergency in effect until such a time as the council determines that the virus no longer presents an immediate threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. Just a couple of questions for some of our department heads. Brad, I would ask you first. I'm sure you guys are doing all the correct things that you're supposed to do in response to this, but could you please describe the ways, if any, in which your department is facing or ready to face an immediate threat because of COVID? Is there anything that you guys are taking action on a regular basis?
Nothing on a regular basis. The real immediate threat would be if, our crew came down with COVID.
Okay.
The fact that we could be without, the proper manpower to have the ability to adjust our shifts and do whatever we need to do to keep everybody healthy and safe. That's the biggest immediate threat to us.
Okay. And my assumption is that a staffing shortage like that or difficulty with guys getting sick, that's mainly going to be handled at your level by the department, just moving people around and trying to manage that through regular means. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Roger, from your perspective, the folks that you manage and the planning and everything that you guys are doing, is there any way that your department is having to cope with ongoing immediate threats from COVID?
I don't know that we have any immediate ongoing threats necessarily from COVID other than, as Brad said, a staff shortage. We obviously are managing the critical infrastructure of the water and the wastewater, and we've had the conversation with my 3 guys that if push comes to shove and we have to come in sick to keep the water system functioning and the sewer system functioning, we may have to do that because we only have a staff of basically 4 of us. And so, not to say that some of Brad's guys couldn't come down, but they're not in the lab, they're not in the dealing with ecology and Department of Health and all those fun things on a routine basis. So we just have tried to make sure and have the discussion about what we're doing in the evenings and after hours and all those kinds of things, but not anything that restricts them from doing much.
Okay. And would there, if all of you got sick at once, you're all deathly ill, would these emergency powers that we're using, would that somehow solve that problem?
Probably could. With the union contracts we have, stuff like that, I would guess they would give Tim the authority to hire help from City of Spokane or some other agency that could come out to have certified folks to manage the water system and pumps and sewer system, or even a private contractor to come in and manage the pumps and some of those kind of things. So possibly yes. Around the union contracts, that may or may not be an issue.
Okay, so it sounds to me like that's more of that is a possibility, but it's not necessarily a probability.
It's a disease, or I shouldn't say it's a disease, it's a thing we're all dealing with, and, we have to manage what we're doing.
Okay. And Mayor Burzell, from your perspective, if we did face some of those shortages, could that not necessarily just be solved like Councilman Scott said, where you take the action needed, you make the proclamation, and you ratify your actions afterwards?
That's a possibility. If we ran into a problem where the water department were all sick, we'd probably have to pull from Spokane County or Spokane City, that time.
Okay. So it seems like, and I would ask you the same question, from your big picture viewpoint, overseeing all the different departments, is there some way in which we're dealing, besides just our staff getting sick, which would be bad, we don't want that to happen, but that's what every business in every city is facing. Are there any other ways in which we're responding to immediate threats to public health and safety at this point?
No, that's not the point. I'm gonna read the resolution that you signed, 2020-006. This was a resolution by the council of the city of Deer Park, Washington, declaring a state emergency with respect to COVID-19, invoking the emergency powers set forth in chapter 38.52 CRW and all other applicable laws, and authorizing the mayor to request federal or other funding necessary on behalf of the city. So my point in maintaining this is, do we want to deprive these people that we serve from funds coming down? Can you predict what the federal government is going to send down or the state?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Do we want to deprive them of those fundings coming down if they do and when they come down? Then I can request it according to this resolution.
Okay, I was gonna address that actually in the second point, because there were, that's been one of the significant reasons brought up. I checked with Debbie a month or so ago and just clarified exactly where the emergency funding that we received came from and where to find out more about that, and looked on the state, or the Department of Treasury website from the federal level. And in their frequently asked questions, they have very clearly listed about the funding we received. The question is there on their website. They say, do you have to have a declared state of emergency to receive these funds? And the answer, again, from the Department of Treasury's website was no, we don't.
But that's still unknown.
Even though they answered the question?
They may have answered it now, but what about the future? What if there are future funds coming in? That's what my concern is.
Okay, sure.
That's my concern to these people.
Yes, there's always the possibility of a future change. But given that we are no longer dealing with, as a city, facing any immediate threat to public health and safety, though there is an ongoing, like Councilman Scott said, the endemic threat of a sickness that is around, will be around. People are going to get sick and have trouble with that. I'm very sad about that, of course. It's hard. But we as a city don't have any need to be able to respond immediately or urgently in a way above and beyond exactly how we responded this way a year and a half ago. We responded at that point with the proclamation. I fully agreed and still fully agree that at that time, the proclamation that you put forth, the resolution we agreed with, that was absolutely the right case to take. And I have no problem with any of the steps that you've taken to follow through on using those powers. Again, no issues there. That's great, and I agree that we needed that at the time. But we very specifically adopted an emergency posture to an emergency, and yet we're still in an emergency posture to something that cannot, by the definition of the words we used, be classified as an emergency. So that's my piece. Thanks for letting us address this again.
Thank you, Mayor Burzell. So technically, we're still in a federal emergency and a state emergency. Locally, now let's bring it more local. I know for a fact of a local business here in Deer Park that had a COVID outbreak that resulted in the business shutting down for almost a week. Many of my neighbors in the past 2 weeks have just recovered from COVID, multiple families. Another gentleman I know who is a member of the surrounding communities, is currently on life support from COVID-related complications. The threat is real. I myself suffered from it. My COVID went into pneumonia, scarred my left lung, and when it gets smoky out there, I feel it. This is a very real and serious and immediate threat. We are going into the holiday season. Flu season's going crazy right now. Is it prudent for us as a city council to go ahead and terminate this resolution when we know we are going into Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, when the flu and COVID is spreading, when we are in enclosed spaces? You know, that's a question I was thinking about. Is it the right time for that? And this is, to me, a very personal thing. I haven't gone through it. I've had a cousin that was in the ICU from it, and there's other people that I know that have loved ones pass away from it. And I believe that it is prudent. We don't know what's going to happen with this. I'm as sick of COVID as everybody else here. Okay, I want to see this thing eradicated. But we have to realize that we did away with this resolution at this time, and COVID is abounding, and it makes a stronger comeback after the holiday season. And Mayor Verzel needs the emergency powers. What happens if 3 of us are sick on the council? How can we pass that resolution if it's not in place? And how can he access the funds to help our city out? Those are my comments.
Thank you. We'll take comments from the audience now. John?
Yeah, I don't know what the agenda is here, but this is real. It's a real thing. And for us to cancel this, and if something happens, we reinvent the wheel and we start it all over again, let's be on an even playing field. And let's just stay right where we are until something changes or whatever. I don't see anything drastically changing, but I think there's something else in this agenda why somebody wants it done. And I, as a concerned citizen, you guys have been doing a tremendous job. Let's leave it right now and address it later. And that's all I have to say about it.
Anybody else? Peggy? Peggy now, so.
Peggy Coyle. My first question is the emergency proclamation from beginning to having it instituted. How long did that take? How many meetings? How much time? One meeting. From the beginning of, you had to get it on a council agenda to do that as well? So there was a forethought in that. You had to have a knowledge of putting it together and putting it on there. So it took time. And this emergency proclamation only pertains to COVID-19, correct? It doesn't pertain to any other thing. You can't decide to go buy a new truck or anything like that. It's just COVID-19. Am I correct in assuming that? Right? Okay. With that, I have concerns because, Richie, I hear a lot of your own personal beliefs coming forward in saying that it's time to put this aside and that, and I, like everybody else, I'm sick of this stuff. I've remained healthy, but it is around us, otherwise we wouldn't be dealing with this. And that concerns me because you have constituents, I also am one, that you have to look at the broader picture. I ask you to look at the broader picture when you're representing constituents and their health and stuff like that. Because when it's pertaining to COVID-19, which this emergency proclamation is only for, we gotta look at the big picture. With that, because we cannot predict the future, I don't see any value in doing the work twice. So if this happens, you get rid of the COVID-19 proclamation, remember it's only that, then if this happens, because right now there is a third resurgence, just like you're saying, and I think you need to be ready for it. That's how I feel, thank you.
Right.
Brian Moore. This particular topic, the immediate issue is the extreme waste of time. Take, for example, the war in Afghanistan began in 2001, and we were at war until August of 2021. The pandemic began, COVID-19 was discovered in 2019, and it continues today. Please quit wasting time. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mayor, according to Robert's Rule of Order, we should all be allowed a second chance to reply. So I would like to do that. Okay, so a couple of points that I've heard mentioned a couple of times is about redoing the work that's been done. The initial meeting when we voted on this resolution, we took maybe 5 minutes to debate it. There was some debate about adding a sunset provision to it, or having an agreement to reevaluate it on a regular basis. That was voted down at that time. As a city council member, I am not afraid of taking the time to do work. We have a 3-reading process that quite often gets waived to avoid taking 30 seconds in a meeting. I would rather take the time to address these things when they come up in the city council meeting. Health of residents. That COVID is very personal to me. Okay, I have lost friends and family. One of my boys has a compromised immune system. We have isolated our family and we've taken the precautions almost to the extreme. And that has had benefits for our family. It has had some costs. So the health of residents is at the foremost of my thoughts. I don't want to lose any more friends or family. This is not a health issue because the city is not the health district. It's not the fire department. It's not the police, not EMTs. We're talking about financial issues of getting funds, and the proclamation and the resolution is not required for those things. There are a lot of what-ifs that are being stated. What if it resurges? And that's a possibility. There are a lot of what-ifs and possibilities that we could suppose. We could say, what if the 1918 Spanish flu came back? Should we have an emergency proclamation from 1918 that exists to this day? It is too easy for resolutions like this to be forgotten and left on the books and later abused. I want to make sure that this is taken care of and it's not forgotten. That is why this is important to me. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Attorney Zimmerman, I had a question for you. I'm assuming that there is a set of procedures in place for if a certain number of the council is sick and action is still needing to be taken. What would that be?
Chuck, are you there?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, speak up a little bit.
Okay, can y'all hear me now? I can hear you. Okay, I've been sitting here listening to this, and I've listened to these same discussions for multiple meetings. And I guess what I'm concerned about as your legal counsel is explain to me somewhat the harm of leaving this resolution in place so that your mayor can act immediately if something comes up that requires that action. I have not heard one concern with the ability of this mayor to act appropriately There's been no mention of abuse of power under this resolution. And if we were having a discussion about that, I would be very much interested in why this resolution remains in place if it's being inappropriately used. The resolution was adopted in order to document the legislative body's intention with respect to COVID-19 and how the city should act in the event of an emergency. The proclamation is all well and good, but there are questions surrounding whether the proclamation itself is valid. That's the reason why the council, in the resolution, if you look at section 5, says this resolution ratifies, affirms, and replaces city mayor emergency proclamation 2020-01. So city proclamation 2020-01 does not exist anymore. And if it were to be the council's desire to approve this resolution, it's certainly fully up to the seated council members to make that determination. If this resolution is removed, I question whether, given that action, a mayor has authority to proclaim COVID-19 as an emergency. And I would have to side on, out of abundance of caution, I would side with no. I don't believe that the mayor any longer would have authority to declare a public health emergency for COVID-19 after a seated city council has decided that it does not exist as an emergency for public health in the city of Deer Park. Now, to the question specifically of Councilmember Stapp, if we run into a situation, God forbid, we have a situation where less than a quorum of the council are available because of COVID, vacation, other illness, other commitments, then there would be no replacement resolution. You have to have 3 members of the council present and voting to approve a new resolution. So I guess I put this to the council in this fashion. I absolutely respect the idea that if this were being wielded around as a reason to take action within the city and do things that were maybe a little bit on the edge, I get that. I have not heard one person, audience, council, staff, speak to that issue. No one has stated that Mayor Resolve has inappropriately exercised or used these powers. So I guess I ask, what is the harm in leaving this here? And I do agree with Councilmember Stapp, absolutely. And that's what's stated in this resolution. Section 7 says this resolution was scheduled for, and I do recall that it was discussed, if I'm not mistaken, at the first regular city council meeting in May of 2020. And then it was let alone, and it wasn't discussed much again until recently. I absolutely agree with the comment of Councilmember Stapp that this resolution should not be lost. It shouldn't just be left there. I mean, if COVID-19, hopefully someday maybe, but not tomorrow, it doesn't sound like, becomes like the common flu, then of course you wouldn't want this resolution in place. But now may not be the appropriate time. And I appreciate you letting me speak to you on this. I do represent two public health districts, so I am a little bit, concerned with COVID and in the know when it comes to COVID. And I know everyone has been touched by COVID. It'd be almost virtually impossible to not be on a personal level. So I would be happy to answer any other questions. And I hope I did answer your question, Councilmember Stapp.
Yes, you did. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think my last question would just be, Mr. Mayor, if you could poll each council member, I'd be curious for them to state under what conditions that they're going to be ready to move forward.
I don't think they're ready to answer that.
Okay, so,
We're not doctors.
I'm sorry,
We're
what?
not doctors.
Yes, but this is about public policy and how we face life on a regular basis, but as a city, in that I agree with Councilmember Scott in that we're not the public health district. We are not.
Doctors.
Correct, I agree with you on that. But I think one of the motivations for this for me is viewing with frustration both our state and federal governments and the way in which...
What does that have to do with us?
I would like to explain if you would like me to speak. Thank you. In viewing them and seeing the inability of the legislative bodies to hold the executive branch of those institutions and call them to account. Again, the parallels are not exact, but I believe it's very important that as an ongoing state of affairs, that we not exist in a state of emergency forever, and that there be very clear definitions as to what it is and when it will be over, and we'll recognize that. And I know it seems silly to some folks that I go on about this, but I believe that it's very important in any country, in any sort of, no matter what the political system is, to have clear boundaries on various powers and the length of emergency powers and how those should work. And so I was, in trying to do my part in this very small area, to do what I believe is right in that we limit emergency powers to specific times and places. So thank you for allowing me to speak. I appreciate it.
Anybody else? Any council members?
Can I?
We're done on the floor.
Oh,
Sorry.
There are checks and balances in government. Anybody that took a basic civics class would know that. Mayor Verzel, you have done an excellent job with the, and you have my full confidence in your execution of this resolution. You have done nothing to abuse the powers.
No, no.
But as a legislative body, it's the checks and balances. If we had a mayor that would abuse it, I am confident this council would revoke it if it was abused, but you have done nothing to abuse it. So you've proven your excellent leadership in this, and I find it foolhardy to go and rescind this resolution when you have not done anything to call for that.
I concur with the run decision. No, I didn't make a motion. You want me to make a motion? I'll make a motion that we leave it the way it is and the mayor's still in charge. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. We've had enough discussion. Councilman Bath, how do you vote?
I vote for it, yes.
You vote yes or no?
Yes. Keep him.
Keep him?
Yeah.
Councilman,
Yes.
Yes?
To keep it.
Councilman Scott?
No.
Councilman Scott?
No.
Yes.
Motion denied.
Motion denied.
Motion carried.
Motion's carried. Huh?
Motion denied. You're not carried.
No, it did.
You did carry. I did. Motion passed. I'm going the other way.
You scared me to death. Oh.
Move on, item 9, resolutions. Item A, resolution 2021-006. Sole source and special marketing conditions exist. Purchase of metal fleece snowplow wing blade. Brad, you want to talk on that?
Sure. This is basically a mere copy of the resolution that we made back in 2020 when we bought the first metal plus blade for our loader. This one, we had to change a few things on it. Dates, price, the size of it because it's going to go on our backhoe, so it had to be a little smaller. And we were so pleased with how the first one held up and performed. That's why we decided to go back to it again. We did the research, and Alpine Smith, ASI Nevada LLC is the actual company. They are the sole source distributor for the Western United States. only place you can get one. And like I said, we were so happy with it. Their service is so good, and there was no reason to look for anything else with how well it performed. So that's why we'd like you guys to pass the resolution so we can go ahead and go with another one.
Make a motion, please. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. This motion carried.
Well, last one did too. It's just
Just the opposite. Item 10, ordinances. Letter A, ordinance 2021-002, 2022 ad valorem tax, second reading and public input. We waive the third reading.
Yeah.
I need a motion for the waive the third reading first.
I'll make a motion to waive the third reading. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council, comments, questions?
Do we not have our next meeting to be able to do the third reading?
We have to have it done.
Okay, November 30th has to be into the county district.
There's a deadline on it.
Okay. I would just like to note that next year I would love to have three council meetings to go with it.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So, if I may speak over it. Yes. So, I've done some research on this. This comes up every year at the same time. It's pretty predictable. So I don't know why we have to waive the three reading process every year. The other thing that I learned is that there are a number of cities that actually do a 2-year budget instead of a single-year budget, but they look at it on an annual basis. That way, they don't have to deal with this whole deadline issue. So I think that would be a great idea to look forward in the future to potentially switching to a 2-year budget, and then we can or whatever council we view it on an annual basis, make modifications, amendment, and submit it. That way, we don't have to waive the three reading process every year. If we need to, we can have the budget meeting earlier. In most three reading processes, the third reading is when amendments are submitted to whatever ordinance. And so if we're starting this process earlier and we need to make some amendments on the third reading, then we can do that. But there shouldn't be a need to waive the three reading process every time. When we go through the three reading process at a normal meeting, it takes about 30 seconds. I've timed it. It takes 30 seconds out of a meeting to do each reading. But every time we do waive the three reading process, it takes more time out of the meeting. And some of the things that I've heard is, well, we can waive the three reading process because we don't want to have to take the time out of all these meetings. It doesn't take that much time. Let's do the work. Let's not be lazy about it.
Speak for yourself.
So we have a motion and a second to waive the third reading. All in favor?
Aye.
No. Motion carried. Go back to ordinance 2021-1002/2022 ad valorem tax. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Can
So
we
this is
have a motion
first
and a
reading.
second? Comments by the council?
Okay, I have comments. Okay, budget workshop was not held in compliance with state law with the Open Public Meeting Act. Written notice was not provided to council members as is required by RCW 42.30.080 regarding special meetings. Both council members, staff, and I were told the meeting would be October 28th via phone calls from Mayor Verzel. I had multiple conversations with Mayor Verzel initially, and then following up to confirm the date, time, and location. My wife called City Hall to confirm the date and time, and city staff confirmed October 28th. Mayor Verzel, you shared on Facebook an article which contained the date of the budget workshop as being the 28th.
I did not do Facebook.
It's on your campaign Facebook page. Does that not represent you? Did you not read that article?
I don't know what article you're talking about.
It's on your Facebook page for your campaign.
I don't have a Facebook page.
Well, you have a Facebook page. It has had letters from you personally on there.
It's a separate story. That's not mine, and I'm not responsible for it.
Then you need to report that to Facebook and get that removed.
I don't do Facebook, so how can I report if I don't read it?
You don't have to be on Facebook to report it.
Thank you.
As a result of Stapp and I not being able to attend that meeting, that prevented representation of the residents that elected us. As a result of the budget workshop, ad valorem property taxes will be increased by 1%. Again, going back to, we were prevented from representing the people that elected us. There should be no taxation without representation. That's all.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
No.
Motion carried.
One thing, how far away from City Hall do you live?
It does not matter.
It does matter.
It does not.
In our small town, if you have 3 hours notice, you should be.
Point of order. You should not be addressing other city council members. All addressment, Robert's rule of order, you should be addressing the chairperson, the mayor.
All right. Next item, item B, ordinance 2021-1003, 2022 annual budget, city budget, first reading. I'll move that to second reading. Item 11, consent agenda. Item A, approval of voucher claim check number 39812 through 39854 in the amount of $1,080,and 51 cents. I'm sorry.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 12, report of departments. We will start with you, Joe. Retail strategies.
Ready?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, council members, in the last 2 months, I've been in contact with a company that operates throughout the United States. They have different offices. Our closest office here is down in California. I've used similar type of organizations to do demographics and assessments of potential businesses to locate in towns or in other places that I've been. These people approached me a couple months ago about the possibility of doing retail analysis and targeted business attraction to Deer Park. And so they put together a little package. And I'm gonna, this is a slideshow that this company does analysis of what retail is in a particular town and determines where there might be some opportunities, and then they actually go out and, as you see from the list, they have a relationship with a whole bunch of different companies in the retail sector. On page 2, and they would like to come up on your December
1st.
Huh?
December 1st meeting.
December 1st, yes. Your council meeting on that evening and make a formal presentation of this as a service to Deer Park. They do charge, and it runs anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a year. One other city in our region, Spokane Valley, which is about 100,000 population, have been contracting with them for the last 2 years. And I've checked back with them a number of times, and they said they're very happy with the service that they've provided, and they've been able to attract some missing retail in their area. Of course, the Amazon facility doesn't count. But they have gone and it helped attract those other. It's still up to the city in order to do the attraction. And that's one of the reasons why I told the mayor that I'd like to continue on for at least another year in order to, if you do go forward with this proposal, then I would work with the firm in order to try to attract those types of retail. Now, all I'm asking for is for you to entertain their presentation on December 1st. You can make a decision after that. You're not obligated to anything else.
Thank you.
Okay?
Next up, Jake, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You're up.
Yeah, not a lot going on right now as far as residential. Deer Park Meadows, guys are up there are going as quick as they can. Kate, I still have not received a single permit application from them, but I think we're getting close. They're just waiting on the engineering to finalize. And then we, of course, we've got a lot of storage units coming our way to Deer Park. So that's the big thing I've been getting on my desk in the last week or so is storage units. More to come, I believe. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Brad, you're up.
My guys have been busy. The parks are all closed up for the year as far as the bathrooms and sprinkler systems. They're all winterized. We have all the equipment serviced and ready to plow snow. Just wait and see if that's going to happen this year. We're out cleaning up after the windstorm. We lucked out, didn't lose any trees, any big branches, anything like that, but lots of leaves. So the guys are out sweeping the streets and picking up the parks. So just ready for winter and see what brings on next.
Thank you. Daryl.
So I got a good lesson in the power of social media about 3 weeks ago. Morning time, Jessica called and said, hey, we're getting all kinds of reports that the airport has 200 Afghan refugees they're housing. And right about that time, my phone just blew up with people wanting to help, people wondering why. I continued to assure them that we did not have any refugees. Shortly after that, Q6 News called, and they said, well, what are you doing? How are you dealing with it? I told them we weren't dealing with it. We didn't have any refugees. That wasn't solid enough for them. They came out themselves with the cameraman, and I guess the result of that was we did get some pretty good shots on evening news at the airport. About 2 weeks ago, we had a driver that drove through the fence on Missile Site Road. The fence area was open for a couple of days. And in the meantime, we had 2 moose enter into the airport. Frank Binder with Avista sent me a video of 2 bull moose kind of squaring off against each other, one on each side of the fence. And shortly after, we found a cow in there. I'm working with Fish and Wildlife now to resolve the situation. And we're spending time getting ready for plowing.
Thank you. Roger.
I guess just real quick, we're finishing up the projects, the street projects. They still all have these little things to finish up all through the year. Debbie will be dealing with paper trails still for the next month and a half or 2, I'm sure. But both of the projects ended up being, we spent less than the contracted amount because of units that we didn't have to expend. So it's kind of weird, but DOT will get some money back TIB won't give us as much money we asked for. We're gonna give EDA money back. The curb money, the loan is gonna be less, so those folks that are gonna be part of that LID will have less of a burden. So all in all, that works out great for all the projects and so forth. So just that one, the water tank project, they're doing little things inside. You can't really see. There's not much on the outside they can do until the better weather in the springtime comes, and that's about it.
Okay, item 13, council questions, comments, reports. We'll start with you, Councilman Bell. Dean?
No.
I think I've said enough.
Kim?
Some announcements, just more community announcements. At the Chamber of Commerce meeting yesterday, they were announcing a whole slew and calendar of activities for December 4th, I believe, the Saturday where we're doing the Christmas tree lighting, starting at 2 p.m. at City Hall. There's a variety of activities and opportunities there to enjoy each other in the community, so I encourage people to go to that. Doug Knight announced that on December 17th at 7:30 p.m., he will be doing his own fireworks show out by the Knight building there. I never quite got, I never understood the purpose, but I'm excited to.
At the end of his Christmas party.
Oh, at the end of his work Christmas party. Okay, I was assuming maybe it was for his employees, but he also invited the community. So December 17th at 7:30 p.m. if you happen to be out near the airport, Cedar Road, you get to enjoy some fireworks. That was great. And then the hot spot has finished being remodeled, so that's an excellent place if you need a place to get some work done when you're supposed to be working from home. You can go there and get that done, and it's a good location for new businesses as well as they need some office space. It's also really helpful. I'd heard for years from people looking for a small to medium space to host either social or business events. And it's an excellent space for that. So it's great to see them promoting that and providing that, because that was a hole in our retail that they are now trying to fill. So that's great. And then the one other announcement, if you know of people who are moving to the area, feel free to connect them with Discover Your Park. We're getting 1 or 2 people a month usually who connect with us on Facebook or via email, and we're able to welcome them to the area, make them feel like they're part of the community, sometimes before they even arrive, and then greet them with a welcome gift. So if you know of people that either would want to join in on that, be a welcoming force for the community, they're welcome to check with me on that. Or if you know of new people moving to the area and you would like us to reach out to them with a welcome gift, feel free to let me know. Thank you.
Ron?
Well, I would just like to wish everybody a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. That's it.
Item 14, interested citizens or communications, requests and comments from the audience on unrelated agenda items.
Tomorrow, there's a winter fest meeting at 6 p.m. at the Food Factory. And to go along with what Caleb said, you'll see these flyers around town, we'll kind of explain more about the Christmas gathering we have going on, and we want to encourage all businesses to join the parade, kind of activity. Just put as many lights and getting Christmas tree decorative on your table, and then enter the parade. Have fun.
Anybody else? I do have a couple things. High school Lady Stags soccer team is going to state. They're having a send-off tomorrow at Darren's Bike Shop at around 7 o'clock, so tune them on. 15, adjournment. We're adjourned. 12.